Premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
We are back on Game Day Live on KWTX and also 365 Sports. We'll get to a couple of nuggets from the trip to New York City by the Big 12 and Commissioner Yormark, Scott Drew, Bob Huggins, and a couple of other people as well. We will hear from Dave Aranda in the next segment, some notes about what he had to say about this week with West Virginia, what they did inside also that off week as well. But the Big 12 was in New York City. Brett Yormark has made it clear that they wanted to start talking early. There's that, that window where you have to still wait, which is in somewhere early 2024 with Fox and ESPN. But he did say they've had meaningful conversations with Fox and ESPN about a new TV deal. I've had meaningful conversations with ESPN and with Fox over the last 30 days. He said this yesterday in Manhattan about, do we accelerate that? Do we think about doing something now? These conversations are ongoing. Whether we get an early deal or not, I don't know. If we can get a deal done with them, if we don't, we'll just wait until February 24. But we've had conversations the last 30 days. I think both realize the potential of this conference. They want to be partners. We want to help. They want to help build our brands, and that's always been debatable. And we'll see whether or not we get an early extension or not. The thought is that one of the things, even if you may not get quite as much money with Fox and or ESPN, is those two networks and what they do for you as well by promoting you, which is also debatable. Have they done that enough outside of the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma?
No, they have not done building the brand out well. It's always they've fallen on their face a bunch of times. That's the key. When we had Bob Berta on the other day at the show, the key is building that message out so that people understand that there's more to the Big 12 than just the teams that are now leaving. It was, the story with, oh, well, Texas and Oklahoma are down, so now everybody else has a chance. Well, everybody else always has a chance. They just need to play better in certain degrees, but they also
some of them have not had just a chance. They've taken advantage of that chance.
But they need to win some CFP titles. That's the thing that will shake it off the most. But the Big Ten's only won one. But that one title has gotten them so much more street cred that it's made this whole thing, which is kind of average as a league, seem much bigger than it is.
Yeah, I think there's certainly been some marketing issues here and there. CFP titles are really hard to win, and it would have been a lot better, for the folks departing. Yes, the schools in the Big 12 right now could certainly, hold up their end of the bargain. A few teams trying to do that this year. Baylor's knocked on the door, TCU's knocked on the door. Part of the missing national championships for this conference was, I don't know, the two big brands who are complaining about things not holding up their end of the bargain as far as the big brands go. Oklahoma, when was their last national title? Texas, when was theirs?
2005.
So we're talking, a pretty long time, over 20 years since Oklahoma won a title. And it's not their job to carry the water, and they did that for a long time. But I think as much of the marketing was, that was wrong was you're focusing on these two teams, and they're not actually playing at the level of, being the peak of conference, of college football either. Oklahoma very close on several occasions, but never quite getting over that hump when it came to the playoff or national title. So, I think the Big 12 is where it's at, in a good way because of Oklahoma, Texas, but also in a negative way because of them as well. And yeah, some of the blame falls on the rest of the conference as well. So, it's all very simple. Yeah, they're going to have lesser TV ratings moving forward because two big brands with big fan bases are not going to be watching nearly as often. And maybe some games don't sell out as much. But as far as a brand of football goes and being competitive and all those types of things, I think it's there for the taking if you're Brett Yormark. There's a lot to like about what could be in store and what you have at your disposal. So, I'm very curious of how they keep attacking this. I will say, though, on the TV talks and stuff, at this point, I'm just tuning that out. I mean, he's saying stuff, but he's not really saying anything. Them talking and all of that, that's notable, but I feel like we've kind of heard that 2 or 3 times already, and it's almost like if it gets too quiet, let's bring that up again. So if there's something to it, that's great, but I'm not going to hold my breath on them getting an early deal. I expect it'll probably, move along at a normal pace, and here in a couple years we'll be talking about that deal. Probably not anytime in the near future, though. It
would have been helpful if Oklahoma, in those 3 to 5 other opportunities, had actually knocked the door down, played for the national championship, and won against USC or LSU, or even a couple other times when they blew that lead against Georgia, Texas in 2009. But it would have been even more beneficial had Oklahoma State back in the early parts of the 2010 decade, Baylor and TCU in 14 when that was a fiasco, or Baylor or Oklahoma State last year, had they had a chance to get in, and Oklahoma State might have had that opportunity had they not lost in the Big 12 championship game, but they also did not carry their end of the bargain as well. Maybe this year, who knows? When we come back, Baylor football coach Dave Aranda on the off week and West Virginia. This is 365 Sports and KWTX.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sick 'em Bears.
Hi, I'm John Proctor with Home Place Interiors. Nothing compares to the quality of an area rug to finish your house. Come by and save 50% on all in-stock and special order rugs. Come by Home Place Interiors where quality is affordable.
For all your flooring needs, visit Home Place Interiors at 523 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sick 'em Bears. Catch up on the day's news with KWTX News 10.
There have been a couple of different times, even this year, when I had a chance to sit down with Baylor head coach David Smoak, when he has mentioned that there was something missing. Maybe in the Brigham Young game when he talked about how some of the young guys or those who were getting a chance to play that didn't play as much last year, where their eyes got a little bit wide. That's part of the lack of experience and under very intense situation in Provo with that great crowd and atmosphere. And then we've heard it again. We've really, as Craig mentioned, have heard this since February about this team growing up, this team being prepared for what they had in front of them, and on top of that, a bullseye on their back.
I think it's always better to have other people tell you if you're doing it or not, because I think the blind spots are real. I think for me, the complacency part is hard. It's hard to, I don't know. I think if you were to be a coach and you were to say my team is complacent, it sounds like a way negative thing. And I think despite all the best efforts of all of it, and I think probably bigger picture need to find better efforts. But I think talking about what's real is way important. And I think there's an element of kind of a waking up, like here's the jersey number, here's the play. Here's all of it. This is not what it is. I know you're better than this. I know that there's an edge to you. I know all of that, getting that back. And so that's been a big focus. And it's been, as far as when I look at me, I just see that with the staff. And I think this came up the other day. But, I think whether it's the youth of the team or it's kind of feeling the complacency and all of it, it's to, as a coach, to use all that and use it. And when we're not hitting the mark either way, or we're not growing the way we think we should, or we're thinking we arrived when we haven't done anything, it's using those moments to teach, and not to weaponize and to, because I think then you're in a thing and you create another thing. And so I think there's both sides of it, because I think players are going to want to see that, hey, I didn't, here's my perspective. Oh, there's a whole other perspective. Okay. And then that whole thing is easier to admit when it's being talked to by someone that you trust and knows that they care about you more as a person than a player. And then, but then I think for the coach, it's like all the anxiety and all the other things. You're not the only one that feels that, dude. Players feel that too. So it's not about just putting it off. It's about using it for good. And so, the best criticism of the bad is the practice of the better. And I think it takes some intentionality to do that. We're trying our best.
When you have a performance coming off Oklahoma State and then you have to go into a bye week, what's more beneficial, going into a bye week where you're going, okay, thank God we have a break here after a tough loss, or do you want to go in with momentum off a win?
It's a really good question. I think when you go off with a loss, you really have to kind of sit in it, and I think it really makes you see kind of the parts and the places and the things that you would otherwise choose not to see. And so I think it's all good. And I think using it for the good is really the other big issue. And so I think taking the time to be in the moment and really see the ugly things and the things that need fixing, which is true everywhere, not just for us, but to really hone in on that, and then to correct it, to teach it, and to do it in a way that holds an integrity with the people you're working with, and builds them up as opposed to tear them down. That's a whole other. And so that's been us, this last couple days, and so I'm proud of how we've approached it.
When David Smoak has a chance to speak next, which will be after tonight's game against West Virginia, but a chance next week would be interesting because of what he prides himself, he doesn't pride himself, but one of the things that he does so well is kind of get the pulse of the people, the pulse of the person over player. And you wonder if he has been disappointed that perhaps he has misread them a handful of times in the last few weeks.
Oh, I think that would be true. I think he would.
Maybe even more than a team that fumbles a couple of times.
Especially since he kind of prides himself on that. I mean, that's his whole thing is noticing what needs to be said in the right moment. He just talked about that, about using those moments to teach. So not finding that right away has got to be frustrating to a guy who is, more about the player than the person, and finding what's underneath the mistakes and all that, and getting into the minutia of that mentally. I think that probably does bother him quite a bit.
How long has David Aranda been a head coach?
Only 3 years.
3 years.
That's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing.
Part of the
he
deal, the
doesn't
growth.
know everything. He's not going to be perfect at, when it comes to everything. I think it's very clear this roster has some holes. And now I feel like I've certainly been a part of conversations that talked about those holes, and then we saw how they went about trying to fill those holes, and, they did what they thought was the best route. But I think you look up and, you do your best, but does that mean that it's going to be perfect just because you tried your best? No, you still sometimes can make mistakes. And I think that, if they were to sit down and be brutally honest and uncensored halfway through the season, you sit down and talk to them and be like, okay, in hindsight, the wide receiver group, or in hindsight, the offensive line, or in hindsight, the secondary, or in hindsight, whatever. Yeah, I think that there could be some conversations about where they might have erred, or where maybe they misstepped, or maybe what they could have done differently. And that's just part of the gig, and that's part of the deal. And going back to him alone, he obviously felt good about, what they had in so many ways. And, now he's probably realizing that, like, if we were to have those conversations, like I said, we would have probably done this differently or that differently. But guess what? They can't do that right now. They got to roll with what they got. So that person-to-player connection is going to become really important. It already was anyways, but I think in terms of their success or lack thereof, that's really going to be part of what can carry them either up or down the rest of this way are those connections. And hopefully that can overcome some of their other deficiencies. But, I just think he's a young coach who's still figuring it out, and I think he's learned a very valuable lesson this year, or perhaps many, that will, be able to, help him in the future.
When we come back, we'll go back to Morgantown, West Virginia, Baylor in West Virginia, just after 6 o'clock Central Time. And we will go back to Chris Williams at the stadium. I'm sure the sun, of course, is starting to set a little bit. His thoughts about as we near kickoff. Chris Williams of KWTX. This is Game Day Live on 365 Sports.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Hi, I'm Vic Fazell. During these trying times, you might want to just stay home. And at the law offices of Vic Fazell, we understand. That's why we're set up to handle your personal injury claim without you even having to come in. Just give us a call, and we'll take it from there. We can send any paperwork straight to your smartphone or computer. Don't delay, because if we don't put money in your pocket, you don't owe us anything. I'm Vic Fazell.
Come experience modern luxury living at Portico at Friars Creek in Temple. Enjoy our pet-friendly Tuscan and loft-style Texas-sized floor plans with desirable features like stainless steel appliances, vaulted ceilings, designer colors, expansive walk-in closets, washer and dryer connections, high-speed internet access, and so much more. You'll love our community amenities like a zero entry and our resort-style pool with an inviting outdoor cabana. Find your next home now at PorticoApartmentsTemple.com. Portico at Friars Creek in Temple, a Case & Associates property. Find Case, find home.
One thing I hear most often from my patients is they still have pain after back surgery. In fact, almost 50% of my patients have experienced failed back surgery.
I had a disc decompression, which actually didn't work. I didn't ever think I was going to feel better. And then I went to Advanced Pain Care. Now I feel better than I've ever felt before. When Advanced Pain Care says the pain stops here, they definitely mean it. I am thankful to Advanced Pain Care for getting me back to doing the things I love.
Call today for a same-day appointment. Locations across Texas. Advanced Pain Care, pain stops here.
We are back on Game Day Live. Baylor in West Virginia, the Big 12. One game is coming up, of course, tonight. Then there's the ones we mentioned this weekend, including that unbeaten showdown in Fort Worth at Amon Carter Stadium between TCU and Oklahoma State. But back to Chris Williams of KWTX from Morgantown, West Virginia. And Chris, again, you've been there now as they get closer and closer to kickoff. Has the view or the scenery and or the vibe changed?
I'm losing you a little bit there, Smokey. The vibe is just starting to fill up a little bit, getting more and more fans coming in here. But I'll tell you what, as that sun goes down, it has gotten chillier. We're here on the Baylor sideline. You can see they have a hand heater right here. You can come stand by. And then they brought out the heated bench. So you can see they're pumping gas in. And you can hang your helmet right on top here. Keep your helmet warm while you're out. And then the bench is heated too. So they're taking the precautions. It should get below 50 here. It was in the 90s when Roy Ogletree and I left Waco. So this is quite the difference for us and quite the difference for Baylor.
All right, Chris, early in the game, what do you need to see from Baylor that'll make you feel good about this team after the bye week?
I want to see them make JT Daniels, the West Virginia quarterback, uncomfortable. I think that if this Baylor defense can get pressure on the quarterback, can make literally the best player on this West Virginia offense uncomfortable, it's just going to trickle down from there. We talked about earlier, West Virginia doesn't really have the star power at receiver, so they don't have guys who can make up for that. So if you can get JT Daniels uncomfortable, you're going to be in good shape as your defense. And, of course, the Baylor defense needs to stop the run. I think that's always the case. I'd also like to see the offense put up points. This West Virginia team can score, so the offense better come out and not be flat today.
Chris, speaking of flat, I mean, there has been at times a kind of stunning lack of energy for this team, kind of like, hey, do you realize that you're in, it's game time? And I think we saw that their last outing. You're there before the game every time, seeing those guys out in the field. As much as you can tell, do you sense like the proper energy levels as they're about to go to war here with the Mountaineers?
It is hard to tell. It's hard because Coach Aranda's even talked about it. Before those other games that they came out flat, they showed the signs of a team that was pumped up and ready to go. And he says he couldn't tell if that was artificial or if it was natural. So, I mean, they look ready. They're jogging out. Actually, we can see the quarterbacks coming out right now, Blake Chapin. The guys, they look pretty much like they have for all these games. And it's hard to read. I guess we'll get a good idea of that a few minutes in. And I think special teams is where that flatness can burn them the most if they do come out flat.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Power's a fantastic punter. The kicking game has been, well, he gave up the kick returns to Oklahoma State. That was a killer, not only the one long touchdown, but also one that followed that a little bit later on. Khalil Keith, he has been out. Dave Aranda kind of made it sound as if this could be a week that he's back. Any thoughts or sights of Khalil Keith in uniform tonight?
No sights just yet, but it's mostly the specialists that have come out. The O-line usually comes out a little bit later unless they're like a long snapper or something in the specialist part of it. I think if they do have him back and if he's healthy, that is a huge get for this Baylor offense. I think Khalil Keith being out is kind of an underrated storyline this season. People haven't been talking about. That's a guy with experience and a good physical lineman in the trenches. So we're going to continue to keep an eye out. I haven't seen him just yet unless, Roy, and you've noticed him come out. But I don't think he's out here. I think it's mostly punters, kickers, and kick returner so far, so we'll keep an eye out.
All right, have you leaned into the stands and asked a West Virginia fan about Neil Brown when you could put it on the air?
There was one. There was probably one that we could put on the air. He was a very kind gentleman. The rest, I mean, even basic questions, yeah, I couldn't put on the air with these West Virginia guys. Pretty funny, but I don't know. They just have no regard for the FCC, and we're the ones who get fined for it, so I guess why should they care?
That's exactly right. Hey, Chris, great job tonight in Morgantown. You and Royden, appreciate that. And, again, enjoy the game, cover the game, have post-game coverage on KWTX, and also be careful on the way back to Pittsburgh after the game is over.
Hey, guys, it's funny how moonshine that tastes like straight gasoline will make you not care about your language.
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's going to be chilly, and so you want to warm up, right? If that's the option, that's the option you want to take.
Yeah, I don't think Khalil Keith's playing tonight. I mean, he was. If he is, that's great. But I mean, all Aranda really said Saturday was that he's getting back to individual drills. So I mean, I think that Paul can speak more to that, but I think there's still a bit of a gap to go from just easing back into individuals and then getting into, game mode. So
unless he was just fantastic and all that
right.
over this week of practice, I just don't see him getting into that. But I think it's great news for next week against Kansas.
Yeah.
I think it's
if he didn't have a setback this week.
Yeah, if he didn't have a setback this week, if he's doing fine, I think that's great. And they really do need him. He's got that edge. He has that edge. Just talking to Khalil Keith, you can tell dude's got that edge. But yeah, I think that there's a little bit of that I would push back on if he's there tonight. But if he is there tonight, it means he had a hell of a week of practice. So,
Byers has played well at right tackle, but Khalil Keith was a part of that. And Byers had a lot of snaps last year, but Khalil Keith is someone who's going to be able to move the pile when and if he's back. And it appears as if that might be sooner, but not soon enough. When we come back, we'll give our predictions of the game tonight between Baylor and West Virginia on 365 Sports and KWTX, and also a few of the elite games this weekend. This is 365 Sports and KWTX TV.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for football started many years ago when he was a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr also loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Whether you want the unbeatable GMC Sierra truck loaded with luxury and strong and tough for the workday, or the performance and ride of a Cadillac or Buick SUV, Richard Carr has an amazing lineup of vehicles for you. Stop by for a test drive, contact them online, or call and say Sikkim and you're immediately a VIP at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit or at richardcarr.com.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, 3 Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
All right, we're back for Game Day Live, the final segment. Baylor and West Virginia, just after 6 o'clock Central Time in Morgantown, is the game we've been leading you up to. And, of course, also in college football tonight, future Big 12 member UCF is at home against Temple. Here's a stat on offense for Baylor. Back in 2019, they converted on 42% of third downs. In 2020, it was a disaster, we know. They converted on 33% of their third downs. And then last year was about 41 or 2%. This year it's at almost 44%. So they are converting on third downs. They do go for it a lot on fourth down as well. The problem is they got to get the other team's offense off the field on third down conversions, because that has been where they've given up too many of conversions and allowed the other team to stay on the field. And a lot of times it's been in 3rd and 8, 9, 10, or 12, which you think that they would feast off of that.
Yeah, I think that this game is going to come down to me to which team's weakness is more glaring. I think I'm leaning towards West Virginia's secondary, which has been an unmitigated disaster for them so far this season. None of that's worked out. I think that means a good night for Blake Shapen. I picked it on the site. I picked it everywhere that they asked me, every West Virginia podcast. I'm saying 31-19 Baylor. I think that they can control the game that way. I don't think it's going to be one of those things that Baylor can just put some distance between themselves and West Virginia. It's going to be a little tougher than that. But I do think that in the later part of the fourth quarter, this is somewhat comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's now or never, really. As far as I'm concerned, when we're talking about, the expectations leading into this season, I mean, I'm fine talking about a team that's like 6-6 and that being the realistic, way to talk about them. And maybe that's how we start talking about them tomorrow. But, it's certainly not the way that it was presented in the offseason or leading into this season. So I think tonight we learn exactly what avenue to take with discussing Baylor football, in terms of the expectations the rest of this way and where to look, when talking about the end of the road and what they may be able to accomplish. So I have to believe that there's, some fire burning. I can't imagine that they haven't heard some of that talk or even felt some of that talk. And I have to believe that they're aware of, kind of where they are right now and how important this game is tonight. So I'm going to put my trust in this team to go out there and get a big win on the road in a place they've never been able to do that. And I do think it will be a tough battle. I do think they pull away late in the second half and eventually win by a couple of scores. But I think this is going to be a scrappy fight, but I'll take the Bears.
I don't want to see just guys jumping up and down, that fake emotion, because it is fake, and that only lasts for so long. I want to see a team goes out and has a personality, has an identity. They had it last year. They haven't quite had it this year. Yes, their two losses are teams that were ranked in Oklahoma State and Brigham Young, but Baylor needs to go out and be who they have been or who they're supposed to be. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about a team scratching and clawing to try to get to a bowl game. And so tonight, as we always say, we'll have more evidence of who they are. Can they run the football and dictate that? Can they play defense and create turnovers? If they do that, they'll beat anybody. But tonight, it's West Virginia. It's on the road, and we know road games are hard. Thanks to so many different people who have been a part of today's show, including Paul, Jack, Craig, Emery, Levi, Garrett, Jacob, Josh, Darby, Chris, Barry Bass, Andrew Hamilton, all of you. This is Game Day Live on KWTX and 365 Sports.
Be able to smile and be healthy and improve their quality of life.
When I came in, I had no teeth from here back because the bridge came off.
We were able to use dental implants, commonly referred to as a smile in a day, and literally take out the bad teeth and put in the new permanent teeth all in one day.
It looks natural to me. I don't feel guarded now. I'm enjoying my teeth.
When it comes to accounting or financial services, choose a firm where it's about you. At Patillo, Brown & Hill, we empower our clients to thrive and grow with a strong professional partnership that gets to know you and your business. Our longevity is a product of our top-notch team of innovative thinkers, critical problem solvers, and dedicated partners who provide a clear and comprehensive plan for your financial